Morning. I'm feeling as rough as most people here this morning. In April this year, the Band 1 patient charge in Wales was raised by 30 pence. The equivalent charge in England was raised by £1.10. The difference between the two countries now for a Band 1 patient charge is £8.40. The Band 2 charge in Wales was raised by £1. In England, it was raised by £3. So the difference now is £16.10 between the two countries. And then the Band 3 charge in Wales was raised by £4.10. In England, it was raised by £12.80. The difference between the two now is £70.20. As we know, Northern Ireland and Scotland is different. They have item of service charge, but patients pay 80%. These charge increases do not put any more money into the system. What they do is mask cuts in direct funding. BDA surveys of patients show that patients will avoid treatment because of charges. These inequalities do not help NHS dentists. Steve Brine, who at the time of the increases was Minister for Public Health and Primary Care, stated that these patient charge uplifts have the aim of finding an appropriate balance between the costs paid by service users, that's patients to you and me, and the rest of the NHS. I mean, that's just clearly bunkum. This motion is not intended as an attack on the charge system of other countries, but it is a call to correct the continued disproportionate rise in English patient charges. We've called for the National Audit Office to investigate this because the NAO is independent of government. They are not civil servants and do not report to a minister. Their public audit perspective is to hold governments to account. So a vote for this motion will give direction to GDPC from conference to do something about removing these inequalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Anybody wish to speak to this? No, great. Okay, good. Right, take it to the vote then. English LDCs only, please. Those in favour of this motion, please. Those against? Any abstentions? One abstention. Thank you. Motion is carried. Next, Eddie Crouch, Birmingham LDC, motion 23.
Good morning again. It says on this that it's policy. I'm not sure it is policy, this particular motion, but if it is, then I stand corrected. Obviously, following on from what Phil said, dental practices are the tax collectors of the NHS charge. But even worse than that, we're paying for the privilege of doing it. As dental charges go up and we collect more cash or card payments through the practice, we pay a proportional bank charge for collecting a tax on behalf of the NHS. This can't be right. We must demand that it's reimbursed and that we actually do hold on to every single penny that the patient pays and not pay bank charges on it. So as a consequence, the way that we actually are reimbursed for business rates could equally apply here, and your proportion of NHS to private could be declared and your bank charges reimbursed. Even better, the NHS could provide a banking system for patient charges to practices that was completely free. I ask you to support the motion.
Thank you, Eddie. Right, we'll take that straight to the vote. English and Welsh LDCs. Those in favour, please. Those against? Okay, thank you. And any abstentions? That motion is carried. Thank you. Hetal Patel, please. Brent and Harrow LDC, motion 24.
Good morning, Conference. The crux of this particular motion relates to several local issues where practices have had bad debt owed by the patient, which eventually has led to debt collectors and more expense to the practice, and actually where the patient fee hasn't been paid and the patient fee is still being deducted from the contract. And actually it still relates to the 2-month rule as well, where practices who aren't paid, any patient fee that's deducted is still taken from their contract, which really feels unjust. It's a debt to the NHS, not to the dental practice, so the NHS should take action. If the NHS Business Service Authority can issue fines for incorrect claiming, which they do, as we know, they can issue fines for non-payment. I urge the conference to support this motion and for the BDA to work with the NHS England and NHS Business Service Authority to implement an alternative system as soon as possible so that practices aren't doubly punished in many circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. We shall take this straight to the vote. Those in favour of motion 24, please. Those against? Thank you. Any abstentions? That motion is carried. Thank you, Hetal.